For me, the worst part about making summer sausage is how long you have to wait before you can try it. But if you follow this recipe, it'll be well worth it. I'm going to walk you through a toasted walnut, blue cheese, cherry chipotle summer sausage. This is a really unique recipe that focuses on our 846 cherry chipotle snack stick seasoning. We wanted to show you a little versatility in some of our blends, and this is the perfect way. And on top of that, I think it looks really cool. Let me show you how I made it. First thing I need to do in our process is get our casings soaking in some warm water. So I have a nice large bowl of warm water here, and we're going to plunge these in. Now with these being in the warm water for about 25, 30, up to 40 minutes here, and with these being in the water for about 40 minutes, it's going to make them nice and pliable for when we're ready to stuff our summer sausage. For our summer sausage, we're going to be using a blend of beef and pork. And for those, I'm going to be using pork butt and chuck roast. These are two really readily available cuts of meat that you can find in pretty much any grocery store. And the fat content for both lend themselves really well for sausage making. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the meat possible off the bone, cut it down into grinder size pieces so that they easily fit and are easily broken down by our grinder. If you find any bloodline in your meat block like this while you're breaking it down, try and cut that out. It's not going to hurt you, but it can give you some pockets of some off flavors that we just like to avoid. So you can see from these chuck roasts that they have a good amount of marbling and fat on them as well. When picking your chuck roast from the grocery counter, try and find one with a little bit more fat. Don't worry about it. Whereas, if you were making a roast or something, you might lean towards the leaner side. And our blend for pork to beef here should be about 50-50. It works really well, the blending of the flavors for summer sausage. It's pretty common. And at this point, I'm going to throw this in the freezer for just a few minutes, get a nice little crust on the outside here while I get my grinder set up. Early on in this process, we want to get our walnuts toasted off so that we can cool them down before we add them into our meat block. We don't want to add anything warm into our meat block that could cause any sort of smearing or fat loss. So we're going to add these to a saute pan. We're going to start over low heat. And now it's going to take a few minutes for the pan to warm up. And I'm going to kind of go through and find any of the large pieces and break that down so that it fits better into our meat block and doesn't cause any texture issues. Most of these are pretty well chopped already. Now you could run these through a food processor or something to break them down even more, but I kind of want that larger piece for our inclusion so you can really see it and really get some of those flavors with each bite. After about 10-12 minutes here, over low heat and tossing often so they don't burn, got some beautifully toasted walnuts, got some nice browning, they smell delicious. And like I said, we got to cool these down now, so I'm going to pop these in the freezer so that once we're ready to mix them into the meat block, it will be nice and cold. I've got our grinder set up with a 3/8 inch plate here, and this is going to be the start of our two-stage grinding process. Once through this size plate, and then we're going to move to a 3/16 plate for our second grind. So I'll load up our meat block into the hopper here. And it doesn't matter how much pork or how much beef is getting ground at once. It's all going to get mixed together so we can throw it all up here together. Looking good. Now we're going to switch to our 3/16 and go for our second grind. For our summer sausage, we're going to be using our number 846 Cherry Chipotle snack stick seasoning. Now this is designed for snack sticks, but I thought this recipe would be a great way to show how a lot of our seasonings can be cross-utilized for a bunch of different sausages. These units are designed for a 25-pound meat block. I certainly know we don't have 25 pounds here, so I have to weigh everything out so that we have the appropriate amount of seasoning for our batch size. Same thing goes for our cure. This is going to be designed for a 25-pound meat block, so I'm going to break this down, add it to some water before mixing it into our meat. For certain sausages, you have the option of mixing the seasoning in between your two grinds. I didn't want to do that with this one because we do have some dehydrated cherry pieces in here that I didn't want to grind up anymore. Now, this being a spicy blend, I'm going to slowly add this in so I don't get it up in the air too much. And as for our cure, I like mixing that into water before adding it to our meat block. Water and that liquid helps it distribute throughout the meat block a lot better than just pouring it in by itself. So we're gonna give this a first mix to get that seasoning distributed, get that cure spread throughout before we start adding in our inclusions. So nice and tacky here. Got some good level of protein extraction. So I think we're ready to start adding our inclusions. Get that mixed up before we start. Get these inclusions folded into our meat block before we case. High-temp blue cheese and our toasted chopped walnuts. We'll just gently fold these in. We don't want to break them down too much because if we overwork it into our meat block, that cheese will start to break down a little bit. And we want to keep those nice chunks visible throughout our meat block. Once we're cased and smoked, we want to see it all in there. I almost forgot. Hold on. So I was sitting there thinking, should I add bourbon to this? And the answer is always yes. It's about 3-4 ounces. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think we got a good mix here. Looks evenly distributed. So now I'm gonna get my sausage stuffer set up and we'll start getting our summer sausage into the casings. I've got our sausage stuffer set up with the largest horn we have here, which is 1 1/4 inch. Very good for summer sausage, fits very well. And we're gonna start loading up the hopper with our meat block, starting in the middle, working your way out to avoid air pockets as usual. And we'll just fill this with as much as it'll hold. Load her on. We'll bring that plunger down and start working that meat block through the horn here. And we'll bring it out to about 90% of the way. Back off the pressure and we'll load on our first casing. For our summer sausage, we're gonna be using a very classic Fibrous Mahogany casing. Now, this is a cellulose product which is derived from tree bark, but it is not edible. It works well because it's very pliable and it allows smoke flavor to get through during the smoking process. And it's flexible enough so that we can get our meat block into such a large capacity casing. Again, we're gonna load that on. Pull that all the way to the end. Pinch around the horn. Keep that pinched and allow the stuffer to stuff while we hold that casing on the horn. Give yourselves 2 inches on the end to tie off. Back off the pressure. Give it a little twist as you pull off the horn. Holding that casing still, twist the end, and you're ready to tie. Now that we're all cased up, just like most sausages I make, I like to let these sit in the fridge overnight. That's gonna let our flavors build and our cure develop on our meat so that we have a really good final flavor profile. Today, my friends, is smoking day. These sat in the fridge overnight and that helped our flavors and our cure develop on the meat, and now it's time to go hang these in our smoker. I have our smoker preheated to 120 degrees, which is going to be our first stage, which is mostly just going to be a drying cycle. It's going to dry out the casings a little more, which makes it a little easier for the meat to absorb the smoke. After the initial drying cycle, which is only going to last about an hour, we're going to start steadily increasing the temperature of the smokehouse until we max out at a temperature of 170 degrees. Once these bad boys hit an internal temperature of 150, we're going to pull them, cool them down, and we'll be able to taste these, unfortunately, tomorrow. After that first drying cycle, we're going to start progressively increasing the temperature of the smokehouse until we max out at 170 degrees. For the full smoke schedule, check out the recipe at psseasoning.com. After which, we'll cool them down and then we'll be ready to try some sausage. But for now, let's get these hung on our smoke sticks and into the smoker. Once our summer sausage hit an internal temperature of 150 degrees, I took it out and I shocked it in an ice bath. This took about 20 minutes and I just wanted to get the temperature down to about 110 to 100 degrees as rapidly as possible. I wanted to stop that cooking process. After that, I let these hang at room temperature for about 4 hours. After the ice bath, I let these hang at room temperature for about 4 hours. That's a process that I like to do for blooming and for flavor development. That's gonna allow those rich colors to develop on the meat. The flavors will spread out throughout the meat as well, and it's gonna create a really nice finished product. And after that, I set it in the fridge overnight to get a full cool down so that we're ready to try our sausage today. So we've got a nice firmness to our sausage and it's time to cut in and give it a try. That, my friends, is gorgeous. Look at those inclusions. You can see the walnuts, you can see the high-temp cheese. That color that we got on our meat block is absolutely gorgeous. Everything looks really well distributed and even. You can see little fat pieces, the coarseness of our summer sausage, and just a little hint of a smoke ring around the edge as well. Again, you want to take these casings off because they are fibrous. Honestly, folks, I couldn't be happier with the way this turned out. The Cherry Chipotle snack stick seasoning as a base is absolutely amazing. It gives it that fruity sweetness, a little bit of smoky, and the heat is at the perfect level, so it's not overwhelming, but it's a really nice accent to our final product here. The walnuts, really cool texture, and you get a little bit of that nutty toastiness from when we toasted them before. And of course, the blue cheese gives us a little acidity, a little sourness, very nice creaminess to the whole texture as well. We smoke at lower temperatures, so the alcohol doesn't have a chance to cook off, so we have some really nice bourbon background flavors in our sausage as well. In the end, I think this is a really unique and very cool summer sausage. A lot of people aren't into blue cheese, but this whole flavor combination that we have going here with the cherry and the sweetness and the heat, I think it all plays really well together. So for this recipe and more, including the products we used, check out psseasoning.com. Check us out on all forms of social media, and if you really like this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Till next time, I'm Chef Jed. Thanks for watching.